There's an age-old truism that says, when they love you, you can do no wrong. And when they hate you, you can do no right. You can be confident, but don't be cocky. We love a guy with good pedigree, but we don't want your dad too involved. We love a guy who can lead, but don't try and tell us what to do. If nothing else, I ask that when you think about the Shedeur Sanders saga, you be honest and ask yourself, do I personally dislike this kid, or am I giving him a fair shake? When an anonymous source said that Shedeur gave the worst interview they'd ever heard, I was perplexed. This is the same guy that by all accounts knocked his public NFL Combine interviews out of the park, praising his teammates, admitting his areas of growth, and showcasing the ability he'd have to bring success to whichever NFL team would draft him. But yet, over the course of 1 week, Shedeur went from a top pick to the top villain of all NFL draft boards. When Shedeur Sanders finished the 2024 college football season, the overwhelming consensus from all draft evaluators was that the senior quarterback would be a top pick. Some said he was the top QB in his class. Some said he was a top 5 overall pick. But not a single mock draft evaluator or fortune teller predicted that he would fall to the 5th round and be drafted after 5 other quarterbacks in his class. Sanders falling to the 5th round at pick 144 is undeniably the biggest slide of any NFL draft pick in the nearly 90 years of the draft. But why did Shedeur fall? Well, first it makes more sense to understand who Shedeur is. Shedeur Sanders is the son of Pro Football Hall of Famer and one of the greatest football players of all time, Deion Sanders. Now affectionately known as Coach Prime, Shedeur has been formally coached by his father since 2017, from Trinity Christian High School to Jackson State to Colorado and the highest levels of college football. Shedeur's rise was meteoric, to say the least. From a 3-star HBCU recruit to the D1 FBS all-time leader for career completion percentage in 2 years at CU. His time at Colorado was often critiqued by some for his unapologetic confidence as brash, cocky, and selfish. You know, the jewelry, rap songs, and aura upsets a certain segment of the country. But funny enough, that same talk weighed on his father back in his heyday. While in hindsight, Deion seems like the epitome of cool personified, we'd be rewriting history if we thought everyone was accepting of his over-the-top flash and swag coming out of FSU. Deion is notorious for showing up to the NFL draft interviews and telling teams with late picks, "Oh, I'll be long gone by the time you're up to draft." Talk about confidence, huh? But Shedeur isn't Deion. In talent level, yes, but also in presentation. Shedeur didn't tell NFL teams he wouldn't talk to them. He didn't refuse to interview with any team. And yet today, some NFL personnel have called Shedeur arrogant under the cover of anonymity. The sins of the father, I guess. But therein lies the biggest cause for Shedeur's steep fall in the draft: perception and anonymity. NFL teams have faced decades of backlash for drafting players with histories of violence, substance abuse, and overall questionable behavior. Every single year, we see highly talented players fall in the draft or get severely overlooked due to legal complications. But Shedeur might have committed the greatest sin of them all against the Shield: self-assuredness.
Quarterback needs where the interviews did not go well. Not disrespectful, nothing harsh, just felt like we didn't get the sense that Shedeur cared all that much about what we thought of him.
His crime? We didn't get the sense that Shedeur cared all that much what we thought about him. And truth be told, I'm sure he didn't. Is that such a bad thing for the leader of your team to be confident, self-assured, determined? Leading up to the draft, Sanders went through the routine pre-draft process that all prospects did once the college football season ended. After those games, players then take on a series of formal interviews and drills at the NFL Combine. In recent years, many players skipped the Combine drills, and Sanders also skipped Combine drills, but he did participate in interviews with coaches and personnel from around the league. The only blemish Sanders' biggest detractors point to comes from the rumor mill around his closed-door interviews. And truth be told, this is where things get shameful. Multiple anonymous NFL team personnel stated that Shedeur had, and I quote, "the worst formal interview I've ever been in my life. He's so entitled. He has horrible body language. He blames teammates. It didn't go great in our interview. He wants to dictate what he's going to do and what's best for him. He makes you feel small." The problem with all of that quote is that it's all subjective. The perception that he had the worst formal interview ever is a subjective opinion by one exec. Made you feel small is a you problem. and says nothing about the ability or capabilities of Shedeur to lead a team to success and victory. The problem with many of these anonymous sources is that they're released into the ether, and narratives are then crafted like a fill-in-the-blank with whatever story anyone wants to sell about his character and personality. We've seen time and time again, especially in the NFL, how certain people are perceived a certain way based on any number of predisposed judgments and biases. What anonymous sources call one player's fiery passion becomes another player's selfish interest. What anonymous sources call one player's a diva, another player is labeled as thoughtful and expressive. For Shedeur, this isn't the first time that those with stakes have taken exception to his comments or actions. We saw in college, he became the subject of intense media scrutiny for calling out his offensive protection after he was sacked almost 7 times in a loss earlier in the season. Rather than this being viewed as a challenge to his teammates, he was called selfish and arrogant for throwing them under the bus. When they love you, you can do no wrong. And when they hate you, you can do no right. This was really clear when I heard Saints coach Kellen Moore explain why they drafted Tyler Shuck in the 2nd round of the draft.
The guy went through the Senior Bowl, did the whole entire combine, went through the visits. Scott went out there and saw him at Louisville. We had a 30 visit with him. Every interaction just really enforced.
Here's the SparkNote version. We like the fact that Shuck did whatever we told him to. It doesn't matter that he'll be 26 years old in a league where youth is the key to success. It doesn't matter that he had 3 different season-ending injuries in college. It doesn't matter that he gave us some of the worst throws in the combine. He was what we were comfortable with. And it's as simple as that. For Shedeur, why did he fall so low from the heights of a top 5 pick to the 5th round? Some would say nobody's bigger than the Shield. But as we look at history, maybe some are. When Archie Manning went on the record to state that his son Eli would refuse to play for the Chargers if they drafted him with the number 1 overall pick, his decision was respected. The Chargers were mediocre at best, and the Mannings decided they wanted better for Eli's career. As a result, he did get drafted by the Chargers, but was immediately traded to the New York Giants and spent his entire career there. For Dion, when he guaranteed that his son would be a top 5 draft pick and not fall any lower, his absolute confidence was met with unease from the NFL. When Shedeur built a successful college career on braggadocio and ego, it was seen as a detraction and a setback that could hurt the team. When Johnny Manziel or Baker Mayfield made their careers as flashy, self-promoting hotshots, their slides still kept them in the 1st round or the number 1 overall draft pick. So while we question what happened to Shedeur, I can't help but think that the consensus to pass on him again and again and again was intentional. As college players in this age of NIL make life-changing money before even stepping onto an NFL field, the Shield may feel threatened by a new generation of players thinking that they have the agency to decide what they will or won't do. What is this, the NBA or something? I've seen a couple of credulous tweets skeptically asking how could a 6,000 person conspiracy conducted by the NFL intentionally try and tank Shedeur's future? But in all actuality, if the league did want to send a message to the new generation of players, all it would take is a few teams to agree to let them sweat it out for a little while, and the point would be made. If you want to play ball in our league, you sit down, do what we say, shut up and dribble, or throw the ball, or do whatever else we tell you, exactly when we tell you and how we tell you to do it. Now, maybe you hear this and think all of this is just too improbable to be true. There's no way the league would let the talent pass over if Shedeur actually was that good. Until we look back at history and see guys like Hall of Famer Warren Moon, that also came out of college highly regarded, and still couldn't find a single team in the NFL to even give him a chance. Like Mel Kiper notoriously said, the league has been horrible at evaluating QB talent for over 50 years now. And if nothing else, we can guarantee that that trend didn't just miraculously end in 2025. For Shedeur, his pro career starts today, with the world before him, and admittedly, with a tougher road ahead than he expected 3 months ago. But for all of those that come after him, they'll have decisions to make, and have to choose whether to get down or lay down. We can hope that future draft picks won't have to go through the same process that the Sanders family went through in 2025, but when this inevitably happens again, I'll make sure that next time I'm only disappointed, but not surprised. Until next time, thanks for watching. Peace.